Hello everyone, my name is Shambhavi. Hope you all are doing well. So into the previous video we had seen about the Selenium RC, right? That what is that and what is that used for? Now today's one is for the Selenium WebDriver. So today I'll be telling you about the Selenium, and here we go with the WebDriver. Fine. So I'll be telling you that what Selenium WebDriver is, how we use that out, and all the things I'll be letting you know there only. Fine. So here we go with the Selenium WebDriver. Now, what is it? So I would start writing out that Selenium WebDriver is the Selenium WebDriver is the successor for Selenium RC. Okay, so it is we just call it as that Selenium WebDriver is the successor for Selenium RC. Fine. So what does that WebDriver do? So Selenium WebDrivers, okay, that is SEL. I would mention out again. So the Selenium WebDriver accepts the commands. Selenium WebDriver accepts commands and sends them to a browser. This is what the Selenium WebDriver actually does. So the Selenium WebDriver accepts out the commands and sends them to a browser. Fine. So this is okay. How is this particular thing implemented? So I would mention that also that this is implemented through a browser. This is implemented through a browser. Through a browser, I would mention a browser as a specific browser. Okay, browser through a specific browser driver. Through a specific browser driver, which sends commands, which sends commands to a browser, which sends commands to a browser and retrieves out the retrieves the results. So the Selenium WebDriver accepts out the commands and sends them to a browser. This is implemented through a browser-specific browser driver, which sends the commands to a browser and retrieves out the result. This is how it works out. Okay. Next, what are the browsers that are supported by the Selenium WebDriver? So I would mention that most of the browser drivers actually launch and access out the browser application and access the browser application. Okay, I will just mention out application clearly and application. So most of the browser drivers actually launch and access the browser applications. Fine. Like examples for that which we are having is such as Firefox, we have Google Chrome, we have Internet Explorer, we have Safari, we have Microsoft Edge. So these are some of the browsers onto which this particular WebDriver work out. Fine. So there is basically HTML unit browser, which is basically used for these only. Fine. Now, next things about the Selenium WebDriver. So I would mention again, I would write it out. So here it goes that Selenium WebDriver does not need a special server, does not need a special server Selenium WebDriver does not need a special server to execute that test. So basically we do not need out a separate or special browser to execute out the test. Whatever browser you are having, it works onto that only. Fine. Instead of that, okay, I would mention instead instead the one which we are having, I would just mention instead the WebDriver, the WebDriver directly starts. Okay, let me remove this out. Instead of WebDriver directly starts. 1 second, let me get down from here. Fine. So Selenium WebDriver does not need out a special servers to execute tests. Instead, the WebDriver directly starts. It directly starts a browser. Directly starts out a browser instance, and controls it Fine. However, basically we have one more, that is Selenium Grid, so that as well can be used with a WebDriver to execute out some different types of tests and some different remote systems. So that is the apart thing right here. Now WebDriver, what does it uses out? So the WebDriver uses native operating system system operating system okay, level functionality. So WebDriver uses native operating system level functionality rather than let me get down from here. WebDriver uses native operating system level functionality rather than browser based JavaScript commands, rather than using out the browser-based JavaScript commands to drive the browser. Fine. So basically, this is what here this Selenium WebDriver does. So Selenium WebDriver is the successor for Selenium RC. We could say that out. Selenium WebDriver accepts out the commands and sends them to a browser. This is implemented through a browser, a specific browser driven, which sends the commands to a browser and retrieves the results. Most of the browser drivers actually launch and access the browser application. Selenium WebDriver does not need a special server to execute the test. Instead, the WebDriver directly starts a browser instance and controls it. So WebDriver uses the native operating system level functionality rather than browser-based JavaScript commands to drive out the browser. Right? So hope I am very much clear regarding the Selenium WebDriver as well, that what it is, how it is used, and what are the things it is, basically what are the applications which is performed. Right? Again, I am just repeating that out, that it's not the complete idea that I am giving you, as we are moving from the very basics of the Selenium. So I am simply covering the very basics of the Selenium suite of tools as well, which we are having. Other than that, I am not going very much ahead into this topic. I will be deep diving into this topic after some few more topics, so that you get out a better understanding of all of these things which I am right telling you here. Fine, we have many more things here onto all of these suite of tools, so that I will be taking forward, and that I will be taking in a very detailed explanation. Right, so hope I am very much clear with this particular thing. So I'll be stopping up here. So this is all for this video. Till then, thank you and take care.